What's up, y'all? Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is 9:34, March 12th in the morning. Just woke up. I'm really doing this now because I don't know, I underestimated the amount of people that actually watch. And I didn't expect y'all to really care that much that I didn't do the finale recap. But there were so many of y'all that hit me in my DMs, hit me on the comments, to the point where it's like, damn, I feel like I have to do it now. But the reason why I didn't want to do it was because I was bored. Like watching the finale, it bored me the way it ended. And then the reunion too. It wasn't really much to talk about there. But what I'm gonna do is kind of do like a debrief. It's not gonna be as detailed as it has been all season because what are we really talking about? Like it's the finale. It was pretty cut and dry in regards to what happened. The reunion, I don't think I'm really gonna touch on too much of that at all because I don't think anything was really entertaining about that reunion. But we'll get to it. We'll get to it. But if you're new here, please hit subscribe. I will be back next season, though. I will. Even though this finale was lackluster, I will be back for the next season and the season after that and the season after that. And hopefully we get a more entertaining finale because I feel like the most exciting finale was season 1 when Ciara won. And then she was the traitor to win. And then you see how whenever she revealed to the two faithfuls that she had at the end that were super close with her, seeing how the fallout was in regards to that, even though the way they did Ciara is kind of the same way they're doing Danielle. Like, she played a traitor game, and they got mad at her for playing a traitor game. But it's just weird. But enough of that. We're here for episode 10. Is it 10? It's episode 11, the finale. Thumbs up the video, subscribe if you're new. I'm not going to waste any more time because I got to go to the gym. But I'll see y'all in a minute. My face all swollen and shit because I just woke up. But we get back to the cliffhanger, which was Britney's vote. And as I knew, and as a lot of us knew, she voted for Danielle. And Dylan was smirking. Danielle was like, wow, you did it to me again. And this is like... And Brittany's like, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. You did. Granted, this one wasn't as intentional. At least I don't feel like it was. I feel like Brittany, she just overthought it. Like, she misread what Dolores was doing, which they talked about at the reunion. Dolores said that she didn't signal to her to vote for her. Me personally, even though she looked up at Danielle, I feel like she was looking like, okay, well, we're still going to stick with Danielle. But regardless, Brittany was confused. She didn't know what to do. If I was Britney, I still would have voted for Ivar to go home. I would have. I wouldn't have changed my vote. Dylan didn't change his vote. So if you want to say that, it's like you can literally put two and two together and be like, look, I feel 100% sure that Danielle is not a traitor. Regardless if you're a traitor or not, you could stick to that. And not only that, they were already suspicious of Britney anyway. So it's just like, just stick with your gut. But she tries to explain herself to Danielle. Danielle's pretty much like, yeah, okay, whatever. But Britney starts crying and stuff, and everybody's sitting there kind of consoling her. Britney saying in her confessional that them being there and them being able to connect, that was what she enjoyed. But Danielle, she comes forward and says her little speech. She's pretty much giving everybody else except for Britney positive responses, positive comments. And then she pretty much lets them know, of course, like I said, I was going to come here and play my game to the best of my ability, do what I needed to do to win for my family, which I'm glad she said that. That's the purpose of to why she's here. Granted, Danielle has not been the most orthodox traitor that we have known to see playing the game. I respect Danielle for doing what she did. Like, Danielle played the game in all aspects. Was it the game that I would have played? No. But was it a game that she did that took risks? She made sure to try and figure out ways to get herself to the game, through the game. And it worked for the most part. Like, yes, she is the last original traitor standing. Britney obviously is a traitor, but we're going to talk about who made it from point A to point B. She started the game as a traitor and finished it damn near as a traitor. So people say how terrible of a game player she is. She's not. Maybe she might not be the best traitor per se in terms of the way to play the game, but there's no right way to play the game, really. And she made it to the end based off of her social game. And that's one thing about Danielle. She always knows how to get to the end of a game. Like, you look at her track record. On her original season of Big Brother, she got to Final 2 and got robbed. She should have won that season. She didn't win that season because they showed, it was pretty much a jury segment, and they showed her DRs and stuff. All-Stars, she got, I think, 6th. She almost got to the finals. And then Reindeer Games, it was like midway. But she got all the way to damn near the finals here. But she ends up letting them know that she was a traitor. They're all excited, obviously. And they're screaming and whatnot. And Danielle says in her confessional she felt stupid. She should have ended up killing Britney when she had the opportunity to. Which, Danielle, you do. You should feel stupid. Because me personally, you crossed me once, that's all. Shame on you. Crossed me twice, shame on me. You're not going to get that second chance to get me out. Granted, I understand why she wanted to keep Britney around. It's because even though y'all had turmoil, she's comfortable. She's somebody that you know. She's somebody that you can try and at least pull in as a number that you can feel a little bit more comfortable with, as opposed to other people that you don't even know. You have to build that trust, or you have to try and get to know these people and let them know that you are trustworthy. Whereas with Britney, she's kind of indebted to you. So I see why she did that, but personally, I would have gotten her out. But Britney's still crying. They're comforting her. She also then says that she wanted to win with Danielle, but people were too suspicious of her. They're suspicious of you too, though. But Alan also lets them know that the seer is going to take a player into their secret meeting tonight, and he reveals that the seer is who? Britney. If Britney would have just voted for Danielle, Danielle probably would have won this game. I'm sitting here thinking about it. She probably would have won this game. If she would have voted for Danielle, I don't know if Dylan would have still stuck with trying to vote out Danielle. Maybe he would have. Gabby probably would have. But I feel like Danielle probably could have made it. But we get to the point where they disperse and whatnot. And Dolores is saying like Danielle should get an Oscar by the way that she was playing the game and carried on at Carolyn's banishment. Dylan was pretty much saying like she played a perfect game. I was gullible. And if I was gullible, she would have won this game if we would have let her through this particular round meeting. But Britney, he's all on Britney now. He's looking at her like, okay, she still could be a traitor. I feel like out of everybody left here, I feel like she is 100% a traitor. And he's also starting to be suspicious of Gabby. But we'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to skip through a couple of this. He wants to end up, actually Dylan ends up telling, I think he was in there with Dolores. He was in there with Dolores and Ivar, I think. Or Gabby, I can't remember exactly. But he was in there with them and pretty much running them down on this strategy. Because they know Britney is the seer. And he's like, if Britney comes back and says that I'm going to just say it, she ends up choosing Gabby to go meet with her. And he says essentially if she comes back and says that Gabby is a traitor, Britney is a traitor. And if she comes back and says that Gabby is a faithful, she probably is a faithful. And now we have to figure out, okay, so what's going on? So he's pretty much giving them the option. Okay, if she comes back saying she's a traitor, we need to vote her out. If she comes back saying she's a faithful, we got to figure it out. So Gabby ends up joining Britney in the room. They're pouring champagne or whatever. They're goofing off. It's slightly tense. But Britney's pretty much talking about how awful it was. She was trying to be on Danielle's side. But the time that they voted the second time, she thought that everybody was voting for Danielle. So Gabby ends up saying that if Britney is a traitor, she'll probably frame her and that would end her game. But Britney ends up getting to the point where she ends up grabbing the letter and revealing that Gabby is in fact a faithful. She's like, thank God, I'm so happy about it. Gabby is as well, obviously, because now she knows that Britney knows that she's a faithful. And at this point, she's hoping that Britney will go back and tell them as well that she is a faithful instead of trying to frame her. But like I said, Dylan is pretty much in there with Ivar and Dolores saying the same thing. Like, if she comes back and tells the truth, or comes back and tells a story, we got to figure it out. If she says Gabby is a faithful, we'll have to figure it out from there. But if she comes back and says that she's a traitor, we know that Britney is a traitor. So Britney's plan, she's trying to plan it out, and she's worried about what could go down because she knows if she says that Gabby is a traitor, they're probably going to be suspicious of her. But she's also knowing that regardless of what happens, she's probably going to be suspicious. But the next morning at breakfast, everybody comes in solo. They're pretty much talking about what's going on, what they think is about to happen with Britney and Gabby, because they're the last two to come in, and pretty much running down the same strategies that they already had. Gabby comes in first and pretty much is stating, like, I hope that Britney's going to come in here and tell the truth because it'll basically be my word against hers, and you have to try and prove your word, which eventually could be your fate. But Britney and Gabby, they walk in together. I just said that Gabby walked in by herself, but they walk in together. But Britney ends up saying that she had suspicions of Gabby before and even brought it up at the round table and felt like she needed to put it to bed, which is why she ended up choosing Gabby to come meet with her. And she lets her know that she is a faithful. So that helps Gabby out. Gabby breathes a sigh of relief. She's like, I told y'all. But Gabby also said that she had suspicions of Britney in the past, but feels like her doing her that favor, a traitor wouldn't do that. Yes, they would. You can't count her out. That's called playing strategic. But Dylan, he's now confused because he's like, I was certain Britney is a traitor. And I thought she would come in here and say that Gabby is as well. But Britney ends up saying, like, it's better for me to say that Gabby is a faithful to try and gain a little bit of credibility and trust within the rest of those faithfuls. But Alan comes in, lets them know about the mission. They essentially get a chance to boost the prize fund. We're going to fly through that because they just literally gained money. And it was boring. That was the most boring mission that we've seen all season. But once they finish the breakfast, they disperse. They're starting to do last minute strategy. Gabby, Ivar, and Dylan, they're in a room talking. Or they're in the kitchen, I think. And Gabby ends up asking them, like, do y'all think there's another traitor left? And Dylan says yes. Ivar's like, there's got to be another traitor. And Ivar was like, the last two traitors, Dolores refused to vote for them. So he's trying to be on this Dolores tip. Like, come on, be for real. But Gabby also then says Dolores hasn't been doing herself any favors by doing that. But Ivar says that he's been suspicious of Dolores and he's uncomfortable with her more so than the others that are left. I'm like, okay, you're grasping at straws now. But Dylan, he ends up pulling Britney. And you could tell, he can tell, and Britney can tell that he's suspicious of Britney. Like, it was obvious. You can cut the tension with a knife. But he ends up saying, like, he doesn't feel like he talked to her since Danielle had left. And Britney's like, yeah, what's up? So he essentially says, like, she was mad at you and said all these nice things to everybody else. So it felt like it was personal with you. And in Dylan's mind, it's like, okay, she's mad at Britney because Dylan's thinking Danielle was mad at Britney because Britney, she already done screwed her in the past. But it just gives off the vibe that Danielle was not expecting Britney to vote for her because they were a traitor. They both were traitors together. So that's what's in Dylan's mind. And he's 100% correct. And he's like, Britney is sitting here acting. And Britney ends up saying it was hard knowing this whole time that this whole thing was a lie. And Dylan is planning to banish Britney at this round table. They have one final round table and he wants to banish her. And Britney's like, it's obvious that he's suspicious of me. He's putting pieces together. He did it at the last round table. But her goal is to get the girls to vote out Dylan, which is smart. And Dolores and Dylan, they end up discussing on who to vote for. They're essentially down between Britney and Ivar. Dylan obviously is vouching for Ivar to be safe. Dolores is like, I ain't spent too much time with that man. I don't really fuck with him. Dolores is hilarious. Dolores cracks me up. I don't care. But Ivar ends up coming in as they're talking. He's asking Dolores if she'll vote for him. And she fake laughed it off, but her face told it all. Yeah, I'm voting for you. But Gabby and Britney, they're in the room talking. Gabby's thanking her for not framing her. Britney is getting to work on her with Dylan, saying Dylan's been acting weird. I'm not saying that he is a traitor because I don't know for sure. You know for sure. But I feel like he could be one of those ones. We can't write him off. And Gabby's like, yeah, I'm not writing anything off because at times like this, he's done called me a traitor plenty of times. But Britney says she's ready for everything that Dylan got coming for her. So we head off to the mission. Like I said, they got to add $25,000 to the pot. They got all of the money to add to the pot, which we'll get to it. But the final schemes, Britney is pretty much pitching to Dolores and Gabby how hurt Danielle was about Dylan turning on her, pretty much trying to play that up like she was hurt because he turned on her because he was also a traitor as well. That's what she's trying to do. Dylan is still on that same tip with Britney. And he's also throwing Gabby in as a suspect as well. So he's not completely writing Gabby off, but he's more so on Britney, but he's also got Gabby. Ivar doesn't believe it's the two of them. He believes that it is Dolores. Stupid. But we get to the final round table. As we know, at this one, when you're banished, you don't reveal if you are a traitor or not. So if the traitors remain, obviously they take all the money. But Ivar, he starts it off, says that he's been suspicious of Dolores being a traitor. Dolores is like, I've been loyal and faithful all my life. Ain't no reason why I would do that. It's not in my DNA. Ivar's like, but you've been on my list. He defends himself, stating that he never wanted to be a traitor. He don't do the drama, and that's not him. I said boring, like boring. But Dylan, he ends up saying, essentially, I'm voting for you, Britney. Because I think there's a good chance that all five could be faithfuls, but you're the only person that I have suspicions on, and we've actually got a little bit of evidence in regards, or at least some type of communication of you possibly being a traitor. So at this point, he wants to just squash anything that is against anybody that could be a potential traitor. But he then brings up Derek going head-to-head, or he ends up bringing up Derek, what he said about Britney earlier in the season, her going head-to-head with Boston Rob, and then Danielle's closing remarks, as she said everything positive about everybody else, but nothing about Britney. So that's what he's using to kind of use leverage against Britney, which he's 100% correct. Britney, granted the first two, Derek and Boston Rob, when she was going at it with them, she wasn't a traitor in that moment, but she was when Danielle. So Britney ends up saying, I understand it's not a great look, but what she said to you also wasn't a great look. I was like, okay, Britney. Because Britney was kind of throwing it back at him a little bit. But she ends up saying, like, what she said, unbelievable when you voted for her. Clearly, she wasn't expecting for you to vote for her. Essentially saying, like, she thought that y'all was in cahoots because y'all both was traitors. That's pretty much what she's trying to pitch. Britney ends up saying, like, you obviously really wanted to be the seer more than anybody when we had the opportunity to, and you were visibly upset when you didn't win. And the person that most cares about someone else winning a seer would be a traitor. I said, okay, Britney. Dylan was blown away by her attack. That's what he said, attack on him. Dylan was very passive aggressive. That type of energy will never fly with me. I can't stand when me and somebody is having a disagreement and they start being passive aggressive with me. That would have pissed me off. So Britney started raising her voice, and he started talking about it like, oh, you're attacking me. You're the one raising your voice because you're being passive aggressive. Like, don't start that bullshit with me. Like, what Britney said is what I would have said. He's calling her attacking. He's saying that she's attacking him. When you were basically, if you want to call it attack, you were the one attacking her. You were coming for her. She's just defending herself. Granted, she's doing the same thing to you, but that's the point of the game. It's not an attack. It's just called using a defense mechanism, and you're defending yourself. But Britney ends up saying, essentially, you can say that I'm a traitor, but I can't say that you're not one. And they start going back and forth in regards to that. And he says, it's not that. It's just the way that you said it. I said, what, with strategy? She actually came with strategy. But Britney says that she gets fired up whenever she's called out. He ends up talking about the Boston Rob thing, too. And she's kind of got that same energy that she had there. But she was like, whenever I feel like I'm being targeted, I get my notebook out and start checking it with the manager. I was like, okay. But Dylan ends up saying just like Danielle did. I said, oh, shit. But Britney ends up saying, I knew you were going to say that to me. I knew you was going to say it was me. And how could you suspect me when our games are so closely mirrored? And Dylan's like, I think it's a possibility that you were likely recruited. I said, this cannot be coincidental that he knew exactly how she became a traitor. Because he was 100% correct. But Britney, she starts fidgeting and stuff. She starts moving. Like I said, body language, I'd have been paying attention to all of that. Anytime somebody is being targeted or there's a lot of evidence coming at that person, I'm watching your body language. Yeah, you can say a lot of things, but body language says everything. Like, if you want to know if somebody's lying, once they start moving and stuff, that lets you know they're uncomfortable. So, that's what I would have been doing. Britney was doing that. I was like, this is where it's starting to look bad for Britney. And she was like, no, it wasn't me. Like, if it was one, it wouldn't be me. But she then says, like, who makes more sense as a recruit than a faithful? The most faithful of faithfuls. And she said, if it came down to an ultimatum, would Dylan be the one to turn it down? No. He's the most faithful of faithful. So if they're going to do a recruitment, it would be Dylan. I was like, that's a smart way to put it. That's a good way. But Dylan ends up saying, you're attacking me. The way you're attacking me makes me think that you're more of a traitor. I'm like, you and this word attack. Like, it's just, ugh. But Britney ends up saying, I'm going to defend myself. Like, you sitting here saying I'm attacking you, I'm defending myself. Period, point blank. But she ends up saying, too, that, she ends up pulling a Danielle move, saying, why would it make sense for me to murder someone? I wish they would retire that. Because that saying is not a good defense. But I'm like, Britney, at this point, you lost. But Dylan's still being passive aggressive with her while she's defending herself. And he just wants her to shut up and let him talk. But it's like, at this point, you're asking me questions. You're saying certain things to me. I'm going to defend myself. If you don't want me to talk, then shut up. But they vote. And essentially, it was a unanimous vote to get Britney out. Britney obviously voted for Dylan, but everybody else voted for Britney. Britney gets up and leaves without revealing her identity, as we know. The rest of this, I did not watch. I'm not going to lie to you because I already knew what was going to happen. They split the money. If one person, if I'm remembering correctly, if one person chose to not split the money, they would have gotten all the money. I would have been that person that would have not split the money. Like, boring. Who wants to watch that? That's why I wanted to trade. I always root for the Traitors because I want a traitor to win. Because it makes it more entertaining towards the end. Because if they bring somebody along that they've had a lot of trust in, that could start drama. 4 people splitting the money, that's boring. And then not only that, y'all, I think it was like almost $300,000. You split that 4 ways. Not many people was getting that much money, especially when you take out taxes. Boring. But the reunion, like I said, we'll kind of gloss over this. Andy Cohen was hosting the reunion and whatnot. They started off watching the final episode where they see who won. Chanel Ayan was me. She's like completely shocked Ivar was even there, let alone winning. The OG Traitors, because they had the winners out there first. The OG Traitors, Rob, Danielle, Boston Rob, Bob the Drag Queen, and Carolyn, they joined them out there. Danielle looked beautiful. Looked absolutely beautiful. Looking like money. And Andy gets into the Danielle and Carolyn situation. Danielle pretty much says we were essentially like organized chaos. And Carolyn says like she thought it was going well at first. But Andy ends up asking Danielle why she didn't go after Boston Rob because of how upset she was about him going for Bob the Drag Queen. And she says like he had too much power at that point. Like I thought that they were working together, her and she's talking about Carolyn and Boston Rob. Which, I mean, when you sit and think about it in the moment, we were like, why the fuck would you be suspicious of her? Because a lot of the signs that Boston Rob was doing and Carolyn coming and telling her that Boston Rob was pretty much suspicious of her, I get why people are like, why would you turn on her? But then again, it's like you got to look at Danielle too. She don't know Carolyn from a can of paint. Granted, the sign was clear that Boston Rob was the one that you shouldn't have trusted. But when you put two and two together that they're both Survivor, you can't write that off, that they could possibly be working together. But Carolyn ends up saying, I came into this game not trying to work with Survivor because they're targets. Like, you got three of the best Survivor players, talking about the men, talking about Boston Rob, Tony, and Jeremy. You don't want to link yourself with them because that makes you a target. But they start talking about the strategy and whatnot. Carolyn starts crying and talking about how pretty much reverting everything back to her previous experiences. Danielle's like, I don't want you to cry. We just had communication issue. That's just really what it was. She said, I respect you. Because they were talking about if Carolyn feels like she was being respected, and Gabby butts in and says like watching Carolyn's gameplay, it's not an act. Watching the show, it seemed like y'all didn't take her seriously. It's not that they didn't take her seriously. It's that Carolyn would say things earlier on in the season and did not fight for her reasonings. The other three would. And when you have four traitors and three of those traitors are very boisterous about their opinions, they stand on their shit. If you're not one of those people that can argue your point down, nobody's going to listen to your point. So that's not Danielle, Boston Rob, or Bob the Drag Queen's fault. We said it. I said it on numerous occasions. Carolyn had the best strategy. She just didn't have the voice to vocalize it. Like, she got it later on in the season, but she should have did that earlier on. That's not their fault that she didn't decide to use her voice. But that's what that was. We get into Boston Rob versus Bob the Drag Queen. Danielle was talking about her messy gameplay, how she couldn't really be herself. She addressed her swearing on her grandchildren because she knew that Dolores was all about family, and she knew it would get Dolores' trust, and Dolores agreed it was a game. But the whole thing with that, a lot of people online, me personally, I wouldn't swear on my family. That's just me. I wouldn't. But there's certain things that I can't say that I wouldn't do. Like, if I'm playing, and I said that, if I get on a game show, which I plan on doing eventually, I might start applying for some shows later on this season, or later on this year. But if I end up getting on a game show, if there is an incentive on the end of the line, and there's money at the end of the game, my family will know that certain things that I do in this game is not intentional. Like, well, it is intentional in terms of me wanting to win the game. It's nothing to do with ill will with them. My parents and my family would know if I'm on a game show and I'm leaving y'all for X amount of time, I'm going to do everything in my power to get to the end to get that money. That's what Danielle was doing. A lot of the people online who don't like Danielle, a lot of them are racist. I'm going to call it what it is. The majority of them are racist. Y'all don't like her, but y'all had no issue with Dan flipping on Phaedra last season, turning on Parvati last season. But when Danielle turns on Carolyn, you have an issue. Y'all didn't have an issue with Boston Rob turning on Bob the Drag Queen. It's just like you put certain things together. People want to say, oh, you always bringing race into it. No, this one is clear as day. I hate Danielle. Over a fucking game, y'all need to be so for real. So for real. Because Danielle don't even care about y'all. Like, hating somebody that don't even know who y'all are. But they bring Britney out and they talk about the deja vu situation. Pretty much her doing the same thing with with Danielle. Dolores ends up talking about like how Britney said that Dolores made that look, which made her vote for Danielle. And Dolores is like, no, I didn't make a look, pretty much stating that you needed to vote for Danielle. And Britney and Carolyn is like, you did. It was on the show. And Dolores says, I wasn't looking at you to do that. And Bob the Drag Queen butts in and says, from the outside looking in, it looks like you did Danielle dirty. Shout out to Bob the Drag Queen and Robyn. They defended Danielle and gave her props, real ones. But Ciara pissed me off too later on because she was sitting there trying to make little sly remarks at Danielle, calling Chrishell, I didn't pay no attention to her. What else? I'm trying to get through these points. They start talking about how Boston Rob looked back in the day. Bob ends up saying that from the outside. Well, I already just said that. But Danielle ends up saying that she felt like she had a relationship with Britney before the reindeer games. And Britney's talking about how like they barely even were friends or whatnot. Regardless, y'all had an existing relationship. Y'all have been Big Brother alumni. You for like a little over a decade. Britney was on 2010. 2020, it was season 12 of Big Brother. And we in 2025. So you've been a part of Big Brother for 15 years. Y'all do a lot of these like events with alumni and whatnot. Y'all know of each other. Y'all been around each other enough. Like, don't try and downplay that and make it seem like Danielle is completely wrong for feeling upset that you cut her again. Like, y'all was working closely together. But Britney ends up saying we spent a total of 2 hours together before reindeer games. Who cares? But Danielle's pretty much saying, like, I'm not acting like we're friends for years and we're friends for years. But essentially, I understand it's a game move. I can't be mad at you because essentially I did the same thing to Bob the drag queen that you did to me. Pretty much stating, like, it's a game. I voted out somebody I didn't want to vote out. You did the same thing. I'm not going to hold it against you. But just going forward, if we play another game together, I will not trust you ever again. As you shouldn't. But they ended on that. And that's where I ended. Honestly, I didn't finish watching the rest of it because I didn't care. It was boring. It was very boring. But I did want to get this out to y'all. It's not as in-depth as it normally would be. If y'all have any thoughts on what you wanted me to talk about that I haven't talked about, leave it down in the comments. Subscribe if you are new here. Please share the video. That will help me out a lot to get more people over so that next year, whenever season 4 comes out, we'll have more people and we can have more conversations. But thank y'all so much for the support this season. We've had a lot of support. I don't think I had a video this year that was under 1,000 views. So shout out to y'all. Keep thumbsing up the video. Keep dropping the comments down below. Subscribe if you are new. I'm going to go ahead and drop this now. I was going to pre-record or plan it for later on today. But I'm going to do that before I go to the gym. But yeah, I had to get this out to y'all because y'all were like, Grant, where the video at? Like, where the video at? And y'all said a lot of nice things, like saying that not too many people do the recaps like me. So I'm like, I got to do it. I got to do it. I didn't want to do it, but I got to do it. But here it is, y'all. So hopefully y'all enjoy it. But let me know what y'all think down below. And I'll see y'all next time. Peace.